Well, we're here.
Not to call out the elephant in the room, but we are reading Charly chapter 6 today. We're not even halfway through. For some reason, I thought this was the halfway point.
Oh boy.
No, there are 14 chapters.
Wow, I thought we had already peaked and we're into the falling action.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We haven't even, I mean,
can't wait to see how Jack Wayland escalates this, but of course, I would never doubt the literary power of Jack Wayland.
I have never and will never. This is the lighting that we have.
Deal with it.
Okay, are you ready? Do you have anything you want to say? Actually, this the scent that we're experiencing while we read this.
Do you like that?
Is sponsored by the Exmo Candle Company. Check them out. We'll link them in the description box. We are burning a candle called Apostasy, which is white tea, red currant, and bergamot. And it's lovely. They have a candle called Mood Lighting for my little factory, which would have been good for this, I kind of think. Yeah. Because it's such masturbatory. Anyway, check them out. They were really nice and sent us some candles, and I'm excited about it.
Your boys are getting sponsored.
We're getting sponsored!
I've been kind of gloomy today. Nothing that the worst book I've ever read can't fix.
Where are we at, Tana? Catch us up on
Is this
where
the fiasco?
Charly and
Sam.
Sam.
Was that the last insane thing we read? Okay, so my recollection...
No, there was the Ferris wheel incident. The old man was knocked unconscious. That new guy... Mark, he got abandoned at her parents' party.
And then finds the ticket stubs and thinks they must be at the Liberty Park Ferris wheel.
It was a very physics-heavy chapter as well. Lots of levers and pulleys and things that we don't understand, but Dr. Jack Wayland does. And ultimately, I think we landed with Charly and Sam, basically saying they're going to get married, right? Remember the mum was like, what will we do with the cake if you don't get engaged to this man? And they're both like, freeze it.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that was the cliffhanger.
I remember Mr. Rafferty came out of his concussion, his whatever.
And was just fine with it all. He was like, you kids.
It's like, I think I have amnesia. I don't remember you, but you sure are cute. And I have good insurance working as the lever puller at the Liberty Park Ferris wheel.
So basically, we've got a very healthy situation where a girl was about to be engaged to one guy who she'd also not known for very long and is now deciding to marry a different guy, the same day.
And he has a word of wisdom problem.
Oh, yeah, but the old guy has a word of wisdom problem.
And, well, Sam has, a fucking law and respect and chill problem.
Yeah, a colossal chill problem. Yeah. Okay. The one thing Charly didn't lack in making a decision about marriage was advice. From morning until evening, somebody was telling her what to do. Her mother was especially active in promoting Mark as the best choice. For my part, I made sure that our new bishop, Bishop Archer, talked to her about the importance of temple marriage. That's a great tool to have in your arsenal. It's I'll just get the bishop to, coerce her into
Seems kind of spiritually bypassy.
Yeah. It's maybe you just, let her decide and don't put any kind of external pressure. And maybe marriage isn't the decision that should be on the table right now. It should be, a way scaled back one. Do I want to date either of these men?
Yeah. Do I want to finish my degree?
This idea that you just kind of pick between options because you kind of have to get married is so Mormon, you know. It's it doesn't seem like you should be marrying either of these. You're not in a position to know whether that's a good idea. But it's gotta choose someone.
You gotta. Your eggs are getting dusty and gonna just blow right out of you.
Mm-hmm. How are you going to decide which of us to marry? I asked her once as the three of us sipped lemonade on her patio. Would it be possible for me to see how each of you react to practical situations that occur in a marriage, such as handling children? Wait, when she said the three of us, that means her, Sam, and Mark, not the bishop.
Wait, no.
Because Mark said, sounds boring, Mark said.
Ew, no, what are they doing?
I think it's a terrific idea, I countered, relying on my church background to have prepared me for family life. Holy shit, they're just all hanging out, sipping lemonade. Or Mark's is probably, spiked with vodka. Knowing Mark, he has a word of wisdom problem.
Yeah, probably. Oh my god, this shows zero preparedness to start a family.
Unbelievable.
Literally, we haven't seen a tiniest speck of emotional intelligence this whole book.
She's like, how am I going to decide which one to marry? Maybe you guys could each take care of an egg for a day and we'll see what happens. I think that would be the adult way to make this decision. The first little exercise involved taking a child to the zoo for the afternoon.
Wait,
what child? Just pluck some random
child. Rent a kid.
It doesn't even... Oh, Mark and Charly took the daughter of the man who came in once a week to tend Charlie's parents' lawn. That's a loose connection to trust people to take your kid for the day.
What the hell?
Wow, different times, you know.
Wow.
It went quite well, according to Mark. On the next day, she and I took the man's 5-year-old son, Lee. So they're like splitting up the kids and being like, you're going to go do this test with adults. It's like just literally using children as objects.
This is insane.
This is so stupid.
Jack becomes more and more troubling to me.
So problematic. This is one of the most messed up things. Why are these children being split up to do this weird task with an emotionally unstable woman, a man who's had 3 run-ins with the law lately?
This is nuts.
Oh God, there's going to be a whole scene with the kid at the zoo. This feels unethical to even read. We had no more than entered the zoo when Lee wanted an ice cream cone.
There's a reason they cut this out of the movie. They're like, this is actually a bad
This is like
look.
really weird. He wanted an ice cream cone, which I bought him. A few feet later, he wanted a stuffed lion, which I bought him. By the time we reached where they kept the real lions, I was definitely ready to feed Lee to them. I want a bit... Okay, so he has boundary issues. Can't say no to even children. That's why he can't say no to Charlie.
You know what he's going to do? He's going to overgive as a way of winning affection and then be resentful for taking it.
That classic scenario. You're the adult in the situation, just say no. Why are you mad at him? Because you can't say no to a child? That's absurd. I want a balloon.
But yeah, your church really prepared you to have kids.
You seem really well prepared, just like give kids stuff. Split them up from their siblings. Make them hang out with adult strangers.
Who are trying to prove shit.
I want a balloon, he cried as he saw a man selling helium-filled balloons. Sam, he wants a balloon. All right, I replied, approaching the balloon man. How much are the balloons? $3. Are you kidding? Forget it. I walked back to Charlie and Lee. Hey, little fella, the balloons here cost too much. Be a good boy and I'll get you one at a store after we leave the zoo. Okay, you better follow through on that promise.
Also, being a dick to anyone working a job is such a terrible look.
Are you kidding me? It's like, it's not that guy's fault.
Just say, okay, thanks. Like, be chill, God.
I want a balloon now. You did say you'd buy him a balloon, Charlie said accusingly. For $3? Are you crazy? Yeah, that's what's crazy here, is the price of these balloons. Look at all the other people who bought their children a balloon, she chided. I can't help it if other people are foolish with their money. I want a balloon. All right, you little brat, I'll get you a balloon. Is that just this supposed to be like cutesy dad frustration? Because it's not.
Do not make
You just called a child you just met a brat.
Oh, Jack. God.
This child is 5 years old. 5. I marched to the balloon man. Give me a balloon, I snarled. He just is, I'm sorry, he's so bad. And
how is this supposed to be winning us
How does
over?
Jack Whalen think that this is anything other than like a disturbing character profile of a man? As opposed, I feel like it's supposed to just be like quirky and, you know, kind of like storybook interesting, but it's like, this guy's just not...
What does this tell you about Jack?
Exactly. This is his fantasy story, Tanner.
That is disturbing.
Give me the balloon, I snarled. What colour? I don't care. He gave me a brown balloon. Grudgingly, I tossed the money down and stomped back, thrusting the balloon at the boy. Here's your balloon. I hope you're satisfied now. He looked at it for a second and then burst into tears again. I don't want a brown balloon. I want a red one. In disgust, he let go of the balloon. I jumped up to get it before it floated away. When I came down, I landed on top of Lee's ice cream cone, smearing chocolate ice cream on my jeans. You broke my ice cream cone, and I want a red balloon. He has his little heart set on a red balloon. Is that asking too much? Charlie demanded. Why do you always take the kid's side? I asked sharply, trying to wipe the chocolate stain from my jeans with a handkerchief. I cannot believe this is going so poorly. Like, my boyfriend and I wouldn't take a random child to the zoo, but I think if you did, I wouldn't get in a fight with the kid or the balloon guy. Or him. It's like, what's going on here? Why is he so testy?
This is how he's wooing Charlie.
Team Mark. Team
Mark, for sure.
And why can't you remember his name? That's Charlie asking him, which is also very valid. It's like, you shouldn't be taking a child to the zoo that you can't remember the name of. That's not going to make the child feel safe.
To prove that you're a good dad. This is how you're trying to... This is all your church taught you about being a good dad. Is just show up and be a dick to kids you don't know and to people who are just doing their job.
I want a red balloon. Sam, he's upsetting the lions. Give him what he wants. All right, I grumbled, marching back to the balloon man. I'd like to exchange my brown balloon for a red balloon. Sorry, we don't make exchanges. If you want a red balloon, it'll be another $3. I glared at Charlie, deliberately released the brown balloon into the air, picked out a red balloon, and tied it on Lee's wrist, wondering all the while how many it would take to make him float away.
Okay.
So you're feeling deep resentment for a child you just met because of your incompetence.
Littering to make a point. And if you had just been just a smidgen of a kind human and just talked, like, to add to the balloon guy as a normal person,
guy would have been like, yeah,
he probably would have, but you were such an asshole to him.
Such an asshole.
Ugh.
This is so bad. How long you folks been married? The balloon man asked. As if the balloon man would take any interest in these people's relationship who's just been so rude to him. And is like yelling at a kid. Why? I asked. You'd better get some counselling. Your marriage is in trouble. I'd rather clean out the elephant cage than be with you two for very long. That is
not
overstepping. It does. I hate to say it, but it does show the limitations of Jack as a writer. That the only way he can convey this point that Sam has had this realization that they might be dysfunctional is by some stranger who's just been rude to being like, you need marriage counselling. It's like, you couldn't have thought of a more of a slice of life way of like conveying that.
I don't know. Most of my turning points have been through balloon guys.
They're like a liminal space. Who asked you? Charlie growled. As we started toward the next exhibit, Lee began again. I want another ice cream cone. The whole experience gave us a new perspective into family life.
How did he make peace with Mark enough to be hanging out and, like, totally harshing...
I have no idea.
Like, ruining the entire vibe? He got in, like, a fight with Mark got knocked out, right? With a pipe or some shit?
I think so.
And then he's like, yeah, I would love to do this goofy little challenge about who can be a better dad.
And Charlie was Mark's girlfriend. If I was Mark, it's like, I'm not going to compete for you. Like, we were together. We were about to get engaged.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do these little fucking tests at the zoo with random children to try and win you over.
Mark, you're about to be a property owner. A member of the bourgeois. Don't settle.
This is not the relationship behavior of a property owner. Actually, it probably is.
Well, Sam definitely.
Charlie still hadn't made up her mind, so she suggested another activity, which she labelled buying food for a family. We'd each go as a couple and buy a week's worth of groceries without spending over $70. I wanted to ask her if she was keeping a graph, but didn't for fear that she was and that I'd find out how poorly I was doing compared to Mark. Again, Mark and Charlie went first and had no trouble. As you would imagine, any two sane adults would not have trouble going grocery shopping together.
I think Jack is setting us up. I think he's setting us up because we're only halfway through, right? Like, we thought that the rising action was going to be the physical altercation that left two men unconscious in Liberty Park.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. The real rising climactic action was Sam's growing self-awareness that he has got to figure his shit out. And Charlie is going to teach him that and therefore make him worthy of her love.
Yeah, I mean, Jack knows that Sam's being an asshole, but I think what is so crazy and unbelievable to me is this idea that Sam can turn this around and still is worthy of Charlie somehow and is still ready to be in a marriage, presumably like 1 month after this scene, you know, based on what I know of the story and how Mormons operate. So it's just like, it's still kind of like belittling this apparent seriousness of these mental issues that Sam seems to have. And it's also just like, I mean, the tests are completely juvenile and like stupid. Anyway, we can't keep digesting this. I was absolutely sure I'd be able to handle this, since I had done virtually the same thing for 2 years on my mission. It wasn't until later that we found out Mark had hired a detective agency, as one does, as any new real estate investor in Utah does.
It's Brian Wolf.
Mark had hired a detective agency to sabotage my efforts by slipping extra items into the cart when I wasn't looking. And also by changing the price tags of items after I'd put them in the cart.
Excuse me.
This is the only way Jack knows how to explore the question of who is Charlie more compatible with.
Oh my god. That is the most childish thing I've ever heard. That's what. Imagine pitching that to a detective agency. I just want. They're doing a little test to see who's going to be a better adult, and I have a bunch of disposable income, and I'm trying to win her heart. Obviously, this is important to her, so I want to do this right. I want you guys to get in there, and I want you to switch all the labels while they're shopping. I don't care how you do it.
Like he yelled at a kid at the zoo and forgot the kid's name, who he was like the guardian of. I think you'll be fine on a grocery trip.
Hired a detective agency. He and Rocky Flintstone should collab.
Honestly, though, this is like Mormon Rocky Flintstone.
Oh my god.
I should have suspected something as we made our way through the store. We were stopped 3 times to be given free samples of new brands of chocolate milk, potato chips, and tomato soup. In addition, we were involved in 2 collisions, during which time people were altering what was in my cart. Unfortunately...
Oh, oopsie daisy, don't mind me.
Jack loves the slapstick.
He does. For a physics professor, I don't think he's thought once about how things like play out.
He's just a physics professor. He's not a writer. All he knows is things colliding, so he's like, whoa, we crashed into 2 trolleys.
Don't ask me how the labels were switched. Mistakes were made.
Unfortunately, we didn't suspect a thing. It was a busy Saturday afternoon. We waited for 10 minutes before we could get checked out, and behind us, 6 other people were in line. We'll even have enough left over for a treat, I confidently told Charlie as I checked the figure on my calculator, on which I had added the prices. Ground chuck at $3.93 per pound. Total $8.43.
What is ground chuck?
Ground beef.
Okay.
I'm confused. So the checkout lady has said total $8.43, but I thought their budget was $70. I was horrified. Excuse me, but I think you've read the price wrong. This is hamburger. She handed me the package. See for yourself. Oh, okay, so she was like weighing the beef.
Okay, but somebody went presumably and bought $8 worth of beef and then switched the tag.
You're not supposed to get too into the weeds on this one. It's really about the overarching emotional narrative that is being drawn.
Okay, I have a terrible emotion.
I feel bad. I looked at the price, dumbfounded. Well, I'll admit that's what it says, but I'm sure that's not the price. She shrugged her shoulders. All I do is read the price on the package. I sent Charlie back to the meat counter to get another package of hamburger. The people waiting behind us grumbled at the delay. The checkout girl picked up the next item. 1 large bottle of caviar, $15. Okay, what grocery store doesn't have scanners but is selling caviar? In Provo, Utah. I don't want caviar, I exclaimed. Then don't put it in your cart, she snapped. Okay, now he's getting in a fight with the checkout girl. I didn't put it in my cart. It's not even on my list. Hey, hurry up, the lady behind us said.
It's not even on my list.
She's like, I don't give a flying fuck about your list. You're going to argue about everything?
I don't give a fuck about Yelp.
I don't give a fuck about Yelp. Imported coconut wine sauce, $5.29. In desperation, I threw my body across the cart. Stop! I want to check my cart! The checkout girl muttered under her breath. I started to dig through the cart, pulling out several unwanted items.
Okay, is she taking stuff out of his cart? Where did they do that? Trader Joe's.
He's at Trader Joe's.
Okay, we've deduced that they're at Trader Joe's. Probably the one by Liberty Park.
I started to dig through the cart, pulling out several unwanted items. I don't want this, and I don't want this. Why do all the nuts shop on Saturday when it's busy? The 4th man in line asked the lady in front of him. Are you through now? The checkout girl asked. Yes, I am. Go ahead. All right, detergent, $12 a box. Where do they read out the prices of items to you? Stop!
That'll be $3.59, $7.21, $3.12.
Okay, I want you to imagine this scene. So she's scanned the...
Has Jack ever been to a store? His poor wife does all the shopping.
His wife does it all, even writing a convincing grocery scene. Okay, so the checkout girl says, all right, detergent, $12 a box. Sam says, stop! Do you want detergent or not? She yelled. So they're yelling. They're in an altercation, as he was with 2 people at the zoo, and...
He is presumably able to see his cart, right?
So she said, do you want detergent or not? And he said, yes, but the price went up. The price is always going up. I mean, the price went up since I put it in my cart. By this time, the manager was there. And then the
price
police
went up by the time...
No, because someone changed the label.
The label's in his cart? Ugh.
Sam, I'll pay for it, Charlie offered. Let's just get out of here. Somebody in this store is out to make sure I spend more than $70,
Oh my god!
You ever hear of inflation, the checkout girl asked. The bill came to $97. To this day, I'm not sure why Charlie finally decided to marry me instead of Mark. A deep addiction to chaos.
That's gotta be the only reason.
There's no other reason. A dysregulated nervous system that needs chaos to feel alive and calm.
Or an elaborate prank, and she faked her death.
Yeah, which I really think is a theory we should start taking more seriously.
I am taking serious. I'm gonna
before
write...
it was just kind of like a cute, like, yeah, maybe, lol, but now it's like, I think this is something we should seriously be considering.
I'm gonna write Charlie too.
I cannot wait. Good luck writing in this style.
I'm gonna do an Adderall tonight.
You could knock it out in a night, I believe that. You could honestly just like stream of consciousness write something and it would be probably on par.
Hire a dog to walk over a keyboard.
So Jack Wayland has taken us through all of those extremely disturbing scenes where Sam is aggressive in public, unable to have a civil conversation with any adult who is like not doing exactly what he wants. But Charlie's decided to marry him instead of Mark.
I'm getting scared my confidence in Jack Wayland's ability to recognize and address Sam's unstable behavior. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid that may be ungrounded. And if it's true...
Unhinged, even.
I'm going to need some emotional support.
In the form of Patreon donations. Okay. It certainly wasn't because her parents approved of me. Mark was everything they had ever wanted. Educated at Columbia, he already had financial holdings. He was witty, and his little New York accent...
She's literally marrying him to get to Spider Parents.
Yeah.
That's gotta be it.
Yeah. She's... Yeah.
They don't want her to, and she's like, I'm doing it, fuck you.
Yep. If you're in rebellion to your parents' rules, you're still trapped by your parents' rules.
Oh, shit.
Something to think about. Okay, so he's witty, he's a little New York accent. He sounded like John Kennedy with a chest cold. He played an excellent game of bridge and golf, and he doesn't make kids cry at the zoo.
He has enough money to hire a private detective, a team of
the private
to do
detective
the
thing
silliest work they've ever done in their career. Maybe they were friends of the balloon guy and they pulled off a whole clown heist.
Someone's getting really suspicious about this story. Please start spinning the conspiracy theories in the comments.
Yeah,
because,
it can't be the obvious.
The truth cannot. This goes so deep. We played Charlie's Little Family exercises for an entire week. After going to the zoo and buying food for a family, there was helping in the kitchen. Because when a man's in the kitchen, he's helping because it's just assumed that it's the woman's job.
What does Charlie have that Mark wants? Like, if Mark is so well established and graduated from Columbia, why is he like, yeah, this seems like a cool situation with a cool person who obviously seems really fine and I'm into it.
Hot and blonde. Same reason Sam was into her, despite hating everything about her.
Because Jack is projecting his, what would motivate him onto the people of the world.
That his boring lack of social skill, all those things can still land him an intellectual babe from the East Coast. It's gotta be. Mark turned out to be an excellent chef compared to me and my hamburger slosh dish. And budgeting our finances. In every case, Mark had done as well as or better than I had. So when I showed up at her house one day ready to play another game, I was surprised to hear that Mark had gone home. I'm not going to marry him. Oh, I said. Does this mean you're going to take me up on the offer to introduce you to 40 returned missionaries? No, that won't be necessary, thank you. Oh, I said, wondering if she had decided to go on a mission. I've decided to marry you. You have? Why? I prayed about it. And there it is. And there it is. Doesn't matter how dysfunctional it is. Doesn't matter if he makes kids cry, gets in fights with service workers. It doesn't matter because she prayed about it. And that's all you need for a hot blonde to fall in love with you is like, well, God knew that you would be a strong priesthood holder, so that's what's happening.
Has Jack officially said she's blonde, or do we only get that from the cover and from Heather Beers being blonde?
I can't remember. remember. I think it did say she was blonde.
Yeah, it sounds
I can't be
right.
bothered to go through it. Ever since Charly was 1 year old, her mother had been making plans for a spectacular wedding. See, that's fucked up. I'm like, no wonder she has issues.
No
and
wonder
it's
she's
like
like,
getting
I gotta
way
get him
too
out.
Yeah, exactly. Complete with bridesmaids, flower girls, ring bearers, rose petal throwers, the whole circus. For me, though, there was only one place to get married, and that was in the temple. I love how he's, like, shading Charlie's mum when it's like, you're describing Mormon mothers who are, like, already in the womb planning on, like, what marriage their kids are going to have.
Who build their whole fucking thing on this one day.
Consequently, when her parents, still heartbroken about losing Mark, finally understood what we wanted, they were not pleased. You mean to tell us that you want to get married in a place where we can't even be there to watch? Her father asked. You can be at the reception, I suggested.
What an asshole.
I just suggested you can come to the reception.
What an asshole.
He gave me a withering look. I'm just shocked that you'd want to hurt your mother like this. You're her only child, and you deny her the satisfaction of seeing you being married? Daddy, I don't want to hurt anyone. It's just that Sam and I want to be married for time and eternity. Oh, God.
Shit.
This is triggering.
This is nuts.
And I've had this conversation in a Costa Vida after my parents drove 5,000 miles.
Shit. Okay, can we just also state for the record that there is no doctrinal basis for non-Mormons not being allowed to witness or for unworthy people not being able to witness. They used to do public sealings. In fact, it even says in the Doctrine and Covenants, I think it's like 97 or 93 or something, it says that it should be witnessed. And then they were like, fight, control.
Yep, there
Always
is plenty of
control.
precedent in cult operations, cult behavior for this. Like, it's very standard, isn't it, to just start getting more and more exclusive and, like, shutting people out of certain privileges if they don't meet the standard. Very common. What does that mean? Her mother asked. We want to be married even after we die, I tried to explain. You two aren't, you know. When one of you dies, your marriage is null and void because you were only married until death do you part. What kind of fucked... this is... there's so much to unpack. It's like, we could do a 30-minute video just, like, unpacking how messed up this is.
It's so embarrassing to see someone who's only been
This
in Utah,
normal, like,
talking to someone outside.
No
like,
empathy.
The church, and blah, 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 and just acting, yeah.
There's no empathy for the fact that, like, this girl's... Charlie's mum and dad have one child, and it's Charlie, and of course that's going to be a deeply emotional thing to learn. But it's just like, well, your marriage is, like, shit, and, like, you know.
You wanted to have a stupid circus wedding, while I wanted to dress up like a baker with a fake green-ass costume fig leaf apron on, like...
And it's important to note that, like, this is how Mormons feel about people who are married who are not married in Mormonism, or who are not married in the temple, which is extremely otherizing and does not help with, like, creating unity in the world and tolerance. It's, like, immediately... like, putting yourself above the rest of it's just classic cult stuff. It's so classic. Can't you go through the temple after you've been married civilly? Her mother asked. Yes, I admitted, but we'd have to wait a year. And besides, we don't want a civil marriage.
I am very horny.
Why not? You believe it's legal, don't you? Sure, but it's a cheap imitation of the real thing. You're saying this to the mother of the girl that you're marrying who is not Mormon.
What an ass.
Her mother flinched. Yeah, I bet. I'd be like, who is this psychopath marrying my daughter?
Jesus.
You both are being selfish, only thinking of yourselves, aren't you? What about your mother? Doesn't she deserve any consideration? Are you going to shut her out of your own wedding? Charly started to cry. That got her mother going, and she left the room in tears. Her father mixed himself a drink. I ate a few cocktail nuts, left conveniently on the coffee table. It looked like this was going to be messy, since I knew I wasn't going to compromise. A few minutes later, Charlie's mother returned, red-eyed but composed. John, she said softly, touching her husband's arm. It's their marriage and their wedding. They should have it just the way they want it. That was the first time I kissed my mother-in-law, who you still haven't named, but whose marriage you have denigrated. Everything that Sam is saying is what Jack Whalen believes.
This is hard to read. At every turn, I'm like, oh, Jack Whalen is going to turn this into a teaching opportunity. But it never happens. It's just like...
Sam is such a terrible person.
Uh-huh.
No empathy.
Or self-awareness at all.
So disturbing.
Oh.
Whew.
just like an actual narcissist.
Yeah. Which, I can't remember what word it was that someone used. Someone commented and said, like, there's a word for when a writer basically writes a version of them as a character. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that seems very true.
And to some degree, all characters are, like, an aspect of yourself.
Yeah. But
and your ability to, like, to flesh out the shadows is what makes good literature. But the fact that he's, like, putting it out there without the self-awareness to be like, this isn't good, is just deeply troubling. And
it's such a one-dimensional character. Like, the only way he can, like, depict, you know, a man kind of because essentially Sam's character is, like, Jackie is writing him as, like, kind of incompetent in certain ways. Although that scene wasn't, I don't think there was self-awareness in that scene, because that is how Mormons, like, talk about people who are not married, and he just openly told her mother that was a cheap imitation of the real thing. That probably was seen as, like, valiant and spiritual.
And a Mormon might be like, oh, well, I would never say that to someone. It's like, but I've heard it plenty of times in Mormon circles.
Even if they don't say it to your face, because, you know.
Passive aggression.
But yeah, like, the only way he can think of to, like, show... He doesn't have a more interesting adult way of showing kind of conflict than, like, these absurd, like, would never happen scenes. There's no, like, emotional depth or
switching
anything.
The meat
it's very bold of him to do a book where someone dies of cancer when he has this level of writing ability in terms of, like, depth and empathy and awareness. Like, it's like the book equivalent of people in an improv class, like, not being good at improv and just, like, shooting everyone in the scene. It's, like, kind of that energy, you know? So that was Charly chapter 6. What a delight.
Wow.
What was the most upsetting moment for all of you? Let us know in the comments. For me, I think it was the cheap imitation of the real marriage. The kid crying at the zoo was a strong contender. And, like, yelling at the service workers.
The whole thing was just a shit show to end all shit shows.
Yeah.
The absurdity of switching the meat labels. I keep getting hung up on that. Like, hiring a detective agency to switch meat like...
You can understand why Jack Whalen's creative writing teacher at BYU was not the most supportive of him going into writing Mormon fiction. You can, if this, I mean, this is his best work, so what was his classwork like? I would love to know.
I think I read one of his other books, because someone mentioned it. They were like, you know, he does one where, like, there's a girl who, like, was, like, pregnant or something, and she falls in love with a teenager, and they swear. I read that book. Wow. So I think might be my second foray into...
I think it's just because, like, Mormonism is such a niche community. I just feel like if you write a book and have a few connections, which everyone does, like...
That's right, subversive Mormon literature. Get it published.
Oh my God, but we get it, yeah. Wait, subversive?
Yeah, like, it's subtly subversive.
So Mormons will read it.
They'll eat it up.
That's a project. Well...
Or I'll get to work on Charly, too. Tell us which one you prefer.
And we've got that we need to work on. The special end of series
We've got
surprise.
A special project.
On top of the other surprise.
Yeah.
That isn't the movie. That's not a surprise. We told you about that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Is that it? Is that the end?
Yeah.
Cool.
Jesus, that was rough. Okay, see you next week.
Thanks for watching.